And our next unbuckled tournament will be DC B-list characters. Welcome to Unbuckled Comics. If you're new, welcome. There's a liability form on the back table next to the pumpkin bombs. Happy Halloween, you filthy animals. If you are returning, thank you for your continued support. I am Unbuckled Kate, your host of this comic book review podcast, and for the second week in a row, we're not going to review a comic. Instead, we are going to be talking about a unbuckled tournament that we did a while ago, quite a while ago, and then we're going to get into a little bit of a case file with Green Goblin. But before we head out on patrol, let's gather some intel first. Linktree. Linktree/unbuckledcomics.com. linktr.ee/unbuckledcomics.com. If you go over to that link tree, you can find all the social medias such as X, Instagram, and Facebook. Instagram is my most active one. You will find my YouTube channel, and you will also find a link to my Discord. Discord is where you want to be. That is where we get to do that is where I have comments sections for each episode, as well as, polls. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. If you heard the cold intro, our next Unbuckled tournament is going to revolve around B-list characters. I already know the ones that I want to put in. I haven't quite decided on a number yet, but by the time this episode airs on Tuesday, I would look for me to have the next tournament started on Wednesday-ish. Maybe not Wednesday. Maybe we'll drop it let's do this. We'll drop it the following week. So our next Unbuckled tournament will drop the following week. If you want to be involved in that, Discord is the place you got to go. Discord is the place you got to go. We will do weekly polls where we will vote for a hero or villain. In this case, it is a B list from the DC characters, and I'm going to use B list loosely. Probably going to throw in some what would be considered C list characters. I'm going to tell you right now, Etrigan is going in, and the question is another one that I really like. Shining Knight is cool. So got a couple of DC characters that I want to throw in there, and then I guess let's Wednesday. Oh, Wednesday, if I remember, I'm going to throw out a suggestion, and we'll let some of the Cape Crusaders in that Discord make some suggestions. All right, so kind of already talked about what I wanted to talk about in housekeeping, but we are going to be starting up our next Unbuckled tournament soon. And around here, I feel like I haven't read a comic here at home in weeks, and it's probably true. I probably haven't. Um, I have been working a lot on some other things that I need to work on. I've been doing some studying type stuff for work. I have been trying to teach myself how to clean and press a comic. I actually have only done one so far, but I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I'm gonna be looking to do some other ones, and then just busy times around here. With the boys getting bigger, I'm probably gonna start losing some of my Cape Cave. Uh, I have a walk-in closet in this room that I have all of my collectibles and comics, and on the top shelf in this closet, I have all the Legos that I've had for, however long, and uh, I'm gonna start taking those down and actually like disassembling them and putting them in bags and labeling the Ziploc bags what they were in the manuals, so that later the boys can build them when they get older. So that's gonna be my next adventure, so I can free up some space. Mainly because we decided that we're gonna start doing a toy rotation, and every Sunday night we're going to pack up all the toys that Bub has out in the living room and then put them in a bin and unpack the toys in that bin. And like we have basically four groups of toys now. set up in bins, and every week he will get to play with those, and then we will switch. Every Sunday night we'll put toys away. And it's not that much. It kind of makes it sound like a lot, but it's not that much. And then each set of toy is also like correlated with a bigger thing. So like he has one of those like, I don't know, 3 foot long kitchen set things, or I built him a box fort. That's going to be tied to one of the groups. We have climbing mats. That's tied to like a group, and I'm not sure what the other one is. We so like each one's gonna have like these bigger items, and then um, but yeah, so that's going on. Dub is right now currently moving into his second night of sleeping in a room with his older brother. So last night, I think I went into the room 3 times, and Mrs. Cape has been in there once tonight already. So not horrible. It's not a bad start. Bub sleeps through. Dub's crying, so all good there. So just a lot of stuff going on in um, IRL, I guess is what we call it. A lot of stuff going on there. So been busy and just not having a lot of time for comics. I would really, really like to start reading or get back to reading World's Finest. Uh, you know, catch up a little bit on that. And then I have a bunch of stuff sitting on the shelf here that I really would like to get to, and it's not going to get any lighter. Long Halloween's coming out soon. It has been a good long time since I have been to the comic shop, and this will be a fun little section. Uh, Let me just tell you what all I have sitting there for the month of September. So, in the month of September, I have Daredevil number 13, Venom Separation Anxiety number 5, Batman Superman World's Finest number 31, Batman The Long Halloween, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween number 0. That comes out this week. Dark Knights of Steel All Winter number 3. Then the following week, which is the week of the 25th, Batman The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween number 1. Daredevil Woman Without Fear, Titans number 15, Ultimate Spider-Man number 9, and Zatanna Bringing Down the House number 14. So those are currently what I am pulling. Um, and I haven't been there since closer to the end of August. So like I have 3 books that released in August that are still at the shop sitting there waiting on me. So probably gonna head over there next week, maybe Friday next week. I don't feel I'm at a convention, so maybe Thursday. I don't know. Gotta pick up my books though here soon, they're just starting to pile up. The backlogs pretty deep at this point. But yeah, so that's what I'm pulling. And also, guys, I'd like to give a shout out to Sergeant Pickle. Sergeant Pickle has been part of our Discord and our group here for since the beginning. He's getting close to like that 2 year mark with the show as well. Like you know, he's one of the OGs. He reached out to me and showed me something that I always forget, and I really really shouldn't. If you have ever heard of Humble Bumble, that's probably not a good thing. Do not research anything Bumble. Uh, Humble Bundle is a place where like they sell things for charity, and it's super super cheap. They do digital comics over there, and there is a um. Let me read exactly what he put. So the first one he sent me was a horror with Archie. And let me open this up and see if it is still valid. Um, yeah. So there is a bunch of these horror comic books, but they're Archie comic books. Some of them actually look like really interesting reads. I wouldn't mind giving a bunch of these a try. And you may be asking yourself, Cape, how much is a bunch? 52 single issue items, and you only pay $18 for all 52 of them. Like that's crazy. It is wild. You can pay less, but then you get less items. The smallest package is a 5 item bundle that you pay $1 for, and you do not get to pick what comics are in that package. And then there's a $20 package or a 20 comic package for $10. Um, I'm just kind of scrolling through what are in those. Those are not the ones that a couple of them are. So like the $20 one wouldn't be bad. And then the $18 one is 52 comics. Now I don't have an iPad or anything, so I hate reading comic books on my phone. I tried to do it with the Marvel Unlimited, but it just did not work for me. I couldn't do it. I hated it. Um, but also, if you're a gamer, they typically have really good game deals. Also, if you're a Power Rangers fan, Humble Bundle is also running a Power Rangers Bundle right now. 32 items, and you pay 25 for these 32. And they are like, if you ever were kind of interested in jumping into Power Ranger comics, this is a great way to do it. Some of these comics are pretty new runs on characters. Some of them are like they have all of the Power Rangers Lost Chronicle deluxe, excuse me, deluxe editions on here. And then there's a 3 item bundle that you pay $1 for, a 10 item bundle that you pay $10 for. Really, really cool stuff from Humble Bundle. Yeah, I said it right that time. And a huge shout out to Pickle for bringing that to our attention. I'm going to attempt to, look at that here and there. But if any of you out there have, something you want to shout out, hit me up, let me know, and I will get it out on the show. With that said, let's just go. Let's talk about the Unbuckled tournament and our Green Goblin case file. All right, so let's go over how we got here. So we were doing these unbuckled and these unbuckled tournaments, and we're still gonna do some. It's just gonna be not continuous. They are quite a bit of work for me, and I just didn't see the return on them. So I had an idea. Instead of doing an episode where I sit down and I go over each round and read the little write-ups that I have, and at the end I tell you what I think, and I thought that they were good episodes, but they actually didn't do very well number wise. So one that did really well that I only ever did one time was a case file that I did on Batman, and I took a look at Batman in the physical media, his comics, as well as TV shows and movies, and where some of that lined up financially. So as we were going through the best Spider-Man villain one, I was like, all right, going through it, and it just wasn't feeling right anymore, if that makes sense. And then I had an idea. Finish out the tournament, and the winner of the tournament gets a case file. So I can mash the best of both worlds, and then once I get that case file done, we'll start up another tournament. So hopefully shortly after you hear this, we're going to start up another tournament, and not sure what it's going to be, what the theme will be, but I'm feeling like maybe B-list DC characters. I'm been kind of into the B-list DC characters lately. Um, so just an idea and kind of a heads up on what's going on. So as I had mentioned, I'm sure multiple times by this point, but we did the best Spider-Man villains, and our tournament bracket ended up as such. Round one, we had Craven against Venom. Round two was Hobgoblin against Shocker. Round three was Doc Ock against Kingpin, and round four was Green Goblin against Mysterio. You guys in round one voted Venom to move on, as did I. No shock there. although I thought that was going to be a closer round than what it was, I'm also not pulling them up on my phone to go through. I'm just going off of what I have written, so I don't remember what the votes were. Next round, Hobgoblin against Shocker. You guys went with Hobgoblin. I went with Shocker, actually. I do remember that Captain Alcatraz has mentioned that, or did mention in his vote, that Hobgoblin was voiced by Mark Hamill in the animated series, and that was enough for him to get his vote. As much as I agree with that, I went with Shocker because Shocker has actually been in more than what Hobgoblin has been. He was in the Spider-Man Homecoming movie, and I actually felt that Shocker was just as big of a villain in the animated series, excuse me, as Hobgoblin was, even though Hobgoblin was voiced by the fantastic Mark Hamill. So I'm just gonna get it out of the way right now. That's the only one we differed on. I agreed with every single one of these going here on out. Next, we had Doc Ock against Kingpin, and if I remember right, Fallen Snow Kiku was the one that wrote in and mentioned that she was going with Doc Ock because everyone forgets that Kingpin is a Spider-Man villain. Amazing Spider-Man, or was it just Spider-Man number 50? I think it's Amazing Spider-Man number 50 is the number. Actually, I have it hanging on. It was passed down to Bub, so he has that comic. Appearance of Kingpin is actually in a Spider-Man comic. Again, not a lot of people remember that, but I think everyone remembers the incredible Spider-Man 2 movie with Doc Ock as the villain, and then he returned for No Way Home, uh, and he was in, I guess Kingpin was in the animated series a lot more, though. But I agree, Doc Ock. Kingpin feels more like a Daredevil villain at this point. And then the round four or match four out of round one, Green Goblin and Mysterio. You know, a lot of people wrote in that they like Mysterio, but Green Goblin killed Gwen Stacy, so he moved on. Um, Round two, for you guys, you had Venom versus Hobgoblin, and Venom moved on, if I remember correctly. And I'm actually impressed that I'm honest, guys. I do not have these notes pulled up of what you guys said, but if I remember correctly, Captain Alcatraz did a little bit of future predicting and said that Venom would beat almost every villain, almost. So Venom moved on for you guys, and he moved on for me as well, moving him into the championship round. Doc Ock against Green Goblin. Again, as good of a villain as Doc Ock was, everyone voted Green Goblin, which set up a Venom Green Goblin finale, and Green Goblin won that pretty handedly, if I remember correctly. And the main reason that most people cited was Green Goblin killed Gwen Stacy. And hey, look, that's why I put him there. I voted for him because of the weight that that had on the comic world at the time. And Spider-Man, I don't want to say never because I'm not the Spider-Man expert. I'm not Spider-Man versus Green Goblin expert by any stretch of the means, but Spider-Man has teamed up with Venom way more than what he has Green Goblin, and I would put a lot of money on that. So it's hard, like even though Venom is a great Spider-Man villain, it's hard to put Venom ahead of Green Goblin because Spider-Man and Venom put their differences aside way more than what Spider-Man and I think any of his other villains do. Which is kind of funny that we end up voting Venom the second best Spider-Man villain, but yet, I think Venom works very well as a villain. He's my favorite when he's the bad guy, but he's also really, really good when they have to work together to beat Carnage or, other symbiotes and things like that. It's a lot of fun, but we're not here to talk about Venom. So we are going to start our case file on Green Goblin. Uh, Look, the creators, pretty obvious. Green Goblin was created in 1964. He was created by Stan Lee. Ever heard of him? Stanley was born on December 28th, 1922, and he died in November 12th of 2018. And the artist for the first Green Goblin was Steve Ditko. November 2nd, 1927 is his birth date, and he passed away June 29th, 2018. Stanley was 95 years old, and Steve Ditko was 90 years old. As I mentioned, Green Goblin's first appearance in the comics was in 1964, and it was in The Amazing Spider-Man number 14. So there were only 14 issues of The Amazing Spider-Man before we got our first comic book look at Green Goblin. Um, so I found this very interesting. Doing a case file for Green Goblin was a little bit harder. It was harder to find financial stuff tagged to him because he doesn't have a lot of self-titled things, which is really curious considering if you look at his mirrored comparison in the DC universe, a lot of people will point to him as like kind of the Joker equivalent, right? He's Marvel's big villain for a single hero, right? Like if you're talking a big villain for the Avengers, you think Thanos. If you talk a big villain for uh, the Justice League, you think like maybe Despero or Starro or Darkseid. You know what I mean? If you think iconic villain for a single hero, it's Joker and Green Goblin. That comparison is made all the time, and I think rightfully so. The funny part is Marvel doesn't seem to use Green Goblin in comics the way that DC does, especially recently. Joker has a ton of self titles, and that's not new to like the last 10 years. Joker has been having, his own titles or him and Harley titled books for quite a while, where Green Goblin really hasn't. His longest self-running title actually came in October 1995, and it ran to October 96. It was a 13 issue uh, limited series. Sorry, couldn't get the words out of my mouth. It was written by Tom DeFalco, and the artist was Scott McDaniel on it. This, however, it is a Green Goblin self-title, but it is not Norman Osborn or Harry Osborn behind the mask. In this book, Ben Urich, a reporter at the Daily Bugle, his nephew Phil actually becomes Green Goblin in some kind of accident. And instead of being a straight up villain, he kind of becomes an anti hero and also a really big pain in Ben Riley's side. Ben Riley being the Scarlet Spider, which I love that costume. So in this 13 issue run, he's more of like a Venom type character where he's a villain because the way he does stuff definitely aligns itself with villainy, but he's taking on other villains. So, um, I mean, outside of that, like there really wasn't a lot there. Um, it makes total sense that that title came out in the 90s, but I'm not sure why they didn't use Norman Osborn and why they gave it to Phil Urich, uh, the nephew of Ben Urich. I'm not, and again, I don't really know what was going on with Marvel continuity in the 90s, so that could have been part of it. Maybe Green Goblin wasn't around a lot. Maybe he was kind of written off as dead or something like that. I'm not sure. But I mean, the longest running title for a Green Goblin series, it's not even Norman Osborn, which is kind of peculiar when Joker has quite a few of his own, including one, I don't think it's still running, but the last one by, yeah, James Tinian. The last one done by James Tinian the fourth. People absolutely loved it, and I was surprised by the first volume. I turn my head and look for it. Yeah, it's just called Joker. Yes, and it is James Tinian. James? I can't see that far. Pretty sure it's James. But anyway, and that was just one of many, so I found that to be interesting. Staying on the topics of comics, though, I think the most notable one, and again, you all are gonna jump out of your chairs and gasp in surprise, but the most notable Green Goblin comic has to be, um, well, let's hold off on that for a second. Let's stay here. There was a three-issue limited run called Spider-Man: Revenge of the Green Goblin. That is the longest. That's the longest run for a Goblin-centric comic that featured Norman Osborn as a comic. Three issues. That's it. This comic took a deep, in-depth look at Norman Osborn's psyche and how he wanted to get revenge at Spider-Man and things like that. Currently, there is a Spider-Man Shadow of the Green Goblin. This is a book that is actually about a goblin before Norman Osborn. So there again, they take their best Spider-Man villain, and he is the best Spider-Man villain. You all said so. I say so. And they really haven't given him the full-on Joker treatment. And I think that might just be more of a Marvel thing, is they tend to not really do that with their villains too terribly often. As I said, I found this rather fascinating because, uh, for comparison, I could count 14 series and one shots where the Joker is the lead, but there's only five total series for Green Goblin, and they are, like I said, similarly recognizable characters, both having been, poster villains for their heroes, and really the comic publishers. I mean, you will rarely see any um like it's the word I'm looking for, like posters with Marvel heroes and villains or just the Marvel villains and not see Green Goblin on it. And you cannot look at anything DC villains and heroes related without Joker. Funny enough, as I say that, I am looking at a little poster board that I have above my door that is DC, and I'm not sure the Joker is on it. That's really funny that I make that claim, but then I actually do think I have something that has a bunch of DC villains on it without him. Harley Quinn is on it though, so that kind of counts, I guess. And then over my other shoulder, I do have a board of, yeah, Green Goblins on it. It's a very similar thing where it's just a bunch of heroes and villains with their names under them. And Green Goblin is definitely on that, but I'm not 100% sure the Joker is on the other one, which is funny because it's the opposite of the claim I'm making. But all right, regardless, you all know what I'm talking about. Um, so when we're talking about what book do you need to read to understand the Green Goblin, you don't have any further to look than The Amazing Spider-Man back in 1963. So I have that date wrong. It's not 1960. Forget I said that. That date's wrong. It can't be. The Amazing Spider-Man. Maybe I meant 1973, I guess. Uh, anyway, it's number 121 and 122. The title of that is 121, The Night Gwen Stacy Died, and 122, The Green Goblin's Last Stand. These two books are a cause and effect combo. Of course, Green Goblin kills Gwen Stacy. And up to that point in comics, not just Marvel comics, but in comics general, something like that had never happened before. Seeing a superhero's love interest get killed by his arch enemy did not happen in comics. And if it did, it was like some for alternate reality that they snap out of their dream or whatever. Something like that happened so fast that it's over in that single issue. But this was Gwen Stacy dying, and she did not come back for like decades. Like, like you got to realize that this whole Ghost Spider Gwen Stacy being around, and she's on Spidey and his amazing friends. Spidey team. Uh, Me and Bubba love that show. Um, like that didn't happen until recently. So Gwen Stacy died and was dead for decades because of the Green Goblin, and I mean, you still don't even really see it a ton. Uh, and it shook readers of all ages. Like it was wild that they would do this in a comic book. Like people were not prepared for this. And then in the follow-up issue, number 122, we see something else that no one really thought was possible, and that's Spider-Man basically took Green Goblin to the edge of life. He beat him to a bloody pulp and all but killed him. Um, and like that was a shocking viewpoint for seeing Spider-Man, but it was also crazy because we're watching a character that many people thought that they knew really well, and they see him go through this tragic thing, and his reaction is not what anyone expected. It showed it made him more human. Um, fantastic, fantastic way to look at the Green Goblin relationship between him and Spider-Man. But if you want to know more about the Goblin psyche, as I had mentioned before, Revenge of the Green Goblin is a good view into his brain. It is a three-issue miniseries that came out. I don't have the date down. I'm sorry. A three issue limited run. I keep calling it a miniseries too. It was a limited run called Spider-Man: Revenge of the Green Goblin. This is like him getting out of prison and his planning revenge, and you get to see a lot of that dual personality in it. So, as far as the comic world goes, if you are looking to get to know Green Goblin, now I had a much longer list for Batman when I did this, but understand I have way more Batman books. I am way more qualified to sit here and talk about Batman. But I also know that Green Goblin is, although he is made to be a complicated character, it is not complicated to figure out who he is for the reader. You need the Amazing Spider-Man 121 and 122. And I'm sure that you can find a trade with that in, and then there will be other issues tied into it so that you can get some more background and post story to that whole arc. And then Revenge of Spider-Man: Revenge of the Green Goblin to get into the psyche. So outside of that, where has Green Goblin appeared? Well, there's been a ton of TV series. There's Spider-Man, and this is just cartoons. Spider-Man, the 1967 animated series, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends from 1981, Spider-Man the animated series, 1994. For more on that, see my episode with Captain Alcatraz. I think that was episode number 50, I believe. Spider-Man Unlimited, which was 99, the Spectacular Spider-Man '08, which I actually really liked, Ultimate Spider-Man number 12, Marvel Disc Wars, never even heard of that until I did this, The Avengers, which is 2014, and then Marvel Spider-Man 2017, as well as Marvel Future Avengers, which was also 2017. For my opinion, and also financially, the best series was Spider-Man the Animated Series from '94. 5 seasons and 65 episodes. And also, there is a chance of it returning because of the X-Men '97 hype. There is talk of Spider-Man animated series returning. I think it's pretty much been rebunked at this point, but even still, 65 episodes for a cartoon, that's wild. None of these other shows have even come remotely close to that. This is the series that, for me, when I was little, this is the superhero series I watched. This got me into Spider-Man. I love that cartoon. Um, Green Goblin actually a little underutilized in that, in my opinion, but the whole night Gwen Stacy died arc is in there, even though Gwen Stacy is not in the episode, and we'll just trust me, guys. Watch the show; it is fantastic. But you're not gonna learn outside of like Origin a little bit. I don't think it's a great show to really build a case on Green Goblin. Uh, Movies, Spider-Man from 2002. That's the Tobey Maguire, William Defoe, Willem Dafoe, sorry. Spider-Man 3, 2007, but that one is actually where James Franco becomes Green Goblin. That's Harry Osborn's Goblin. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, 2014. I actually have not seen that the whole way through. I've seen a little bit of the beginning and some of the very, very end, so I can't even really talk to that one. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse in 2018. I don't really remember there being a Green Goblin in that movie, which probably isn't good because I really like that movie. Spider-Man No Way Home in 2021. So if we look at all of those movies, No Way Home is the highest grossing easily, like not even close. And then Spider-Man sits at number five um, of highest grossing Spider-Man movies, to make myself clear. So the Willem Dafoe Green Goblin is in two of the top five highest grossing Spider-Man movies of all time. But if you want a good Green Goblin movie, I think the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire is your best way to get a good Green Goblin movie. Look, he is fantastic in No Way Home. I think that is a great movie. It absolutely nothing against that and that version of Green Goblin. It fits, but you get the origin, you get Green Goblin learning Spider-Man's identity in that one. Not that he doesn't know it in No Way Home, but he learns it a little more organically by figuring it out uh, himself. There's the relationship with Peter and Harry being friends, and there's a whole MJ thing, and that movie is a lot more accurate to the relationship between Spider-Man and Green Goblin if you're making it as like comic book accurate as possible. So, um, comic book you want to read The Night Gwen Stacy Died and The Green Goblin's Last Stand. That is The Amazing Spider-Man 121 and The Amazing Spider-Man 122. If you're going to watch a TV series, I still think, even though it wasn't super focused on him, I still think Spider-Man the Animated Series in '94 is probably your best bet. He is in quite a few episodes. It's just not as centric, but look, you get the whole the night Gwen Stacy died, you get that arc in there as well. So just for that, it would even be worth it. His origin story is pretty comic book accurate in that as well, so that makes it worth it. And then if we are talking about movies, it's the first Spider-Man movie, and there again, if it wouldn't be for that first Spider-Man movie, am I this much of a comic book fan? I mean, I can remember watching that movie over and over and over again, and I remember toys and having a Spider-Man costume, and I actually think I had the costume before the movie came out, but it's probably pretty close. But yeah, it's just so. I think if you're trying to pick one comic, one TV series, and one movie, those are your three to build on. The gist of the Green Goblin is well, he is kind of more like the Joker, less killing others in anarchy, but more just after Spider-Man. And he has this dual personality with, you know, oh, kind of lost my train of thought. He has a dual personality where the Green Goblin is more of a voice inside Norman Osborn's head and kind of controls him, almost the way Two-Face works, but it's a mask compared to a scarred face. What makes Green Goblin such a great villain? Well, I think it's the unpredictability. I think when guys and girls get to write Spider-Man comics involving Green Goblin, it's a very moldable character because of how unpredictable said character is. Nothing is really off the table. You're not going to see. It's a good example. Like you wouldn't see Batman's Ra's al Ghul do something like try to blow up buildings for like no reason, or perform major heists that doesn't like have any impact on the environment. Like he's an eco-terrorist, so you're going to see him doing eco-terrorist things. Joker, on the other hand, who knows what that guy's doing? And Green Goblin's kind of the same way. Uh, his motivations change with the wind, and I think that's why the character can be such a great villain, because he's not tied to anything. There's no set, this is how it is, this is how it isn't. It's just he hates Spider-Man and he loves the chaos. I think that's what makes him such a good villain. What makes him a compelling and interesting villain is the fact that at one point he learns the identity of Spider-Man. He knows him to be Peter Parker. And for a little bit, there's some turmoil there because Peter is friends with Harry Osborn. If you are watching the Spider-Man movie. Not only is he friends with Harry Osborn, but he kind of interns at Oscorp for a little bit, and they have a little bit of a Norman and Peter have a little bit of relationship themselves. But the Green Goblin takes over anyway. I think there is a lot more depth to it. Looking at it from Peter's standpoint, he knows that the Green Goblin is Norman Osborn, which makes it super tough for him because he's fighting his best friend's dad. And, he wants to make sure that he is pulling punches so that he doesn't cripple the man for life. Whereas, if he's going up against Hobgoblin, maybe there's a little less care there because he doesn't have a personal connection to him. But um, that is really all I have for this case file. I want to thank you all for voting, and I want to thank you all for agreeing with me. It's much more fun. No, it's not. I like when we disagree, but it makes doing a case file on a character that I think is one that I can do a case file on much easier. I could have did one for Venom, but if you guys would have voted like Hobgoblin, the winner of that one, I think I would have struggled with this. So I'm gonna have to strategically set up the unbuckled tournaments moving forward if we are going to continue to do case files. So I don't know. Let me know, guys. Does this work for you? Are you happy doing unbuckled tournaments and doing the votes this way and having it turn out to be a case file episode? Does this not work for you? Let me know. Just head on over to the Linktree, linktr.ee/unbuckled comics, and hit me up on one of the social medias or join the Discord and let me know. Get a little extra plug in there. And until next time, guys, get out there and save the world, you bunch of heroes.